My sister refused to babysit for one day after I paid for her entire wedding, called me her servant, so I took back everything I gave her and she lost it all. Now she's begging, but it's too late. Subscribe to the channel and like the video to see more stories like this. The words came out of Lisa's mouth so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. We were standing in her kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd helped her address 200 wedding invitations just 3 weeks earlier. My 2-year-old son Ethan was tugging at my leg, and I was exhausted from another sleepless night of teething tantrums. I need you to watch Ethan tomorrow, I said, bouncing my son on my hip. Just for a few hours. I have that job interview at the hospital, remember? The pediatric nursing position I told you about? Lisa didn't even look up from her phone. She was scrolling through her wedding Pinterest board, saving images of centerpieces that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Can't do it, Rachel. Tyler and I have a cake tasting appointment. Lisa, please. This interview is really important. Mom's visiting Aunt Jean and my regular sitter is sick. It's just 4 hours, 5 at most. That's when she finally looked at me. Her eyes, the same hazel as mine, were cold in a way I'd never seen before. I'm not your servant. Rachel, figure it out yourself. The room seemed to tilt. I stood there, frozen, while those words echoed in my head. Not your servant. This was the same sister I'd sacrificed everything for. The same sister whose $20,000 wedding I'd been funding for the past 8 months, draining my savings account, and working double shifts at the clinic, where I was barely making ends meet as a nursing assistant. Excuse me? My voice came out quieter than I intended. Lisa set her phone down with an exaggerated sigh. Look, I'm getting married in 3 days. 3 days, Rachel. I don't have time to play babysitter for your kid. You chose to have a baby. That's your responsibility, not mine. Something in her tone made my blood run cold. It wasn't just the refusal. It was the contempt. The way she said your kid, like Ethan, was some kind of inconvenience she'd been forced to acknowledge. This was my nephew she was talking about. The little boy who called her Auntie Lila and squealed with joy whenever she walked into a room. I see, I said slowly, adjusting Ethan on my hip. He'd gone quiet, sensing the tension the way toddlers do. Good. I knew you'd understand. Lisa picked up her phone again, already dismissing me. Now, I need to finish this. The wedding planner is coming over in an hour, and we still haven't decided on the final seating chart. I should have left then. Should have walked out and figured something else out. But my feet wouldn't move, because suddenly, I was seeing everything clearly for the first time in months. Maybe for the first time in years. The wedding planner she mentioned? I'd paid the $5,000 retainer, the cake tasting tomorrow. I'd covered the $3,000 deposit for the 4-tier custom cake from that boutique bakery she insisted on, the dress hanging in her closet upstairs, the one she'd posted on Instagram with the caption, "Dreams do come true." I'd maxed out my credit card for that $4,500 designer gown. Every single detail of Lisa's dream wedding had been funded by my sacrifice. I'd worked 70-hour weeks, picking up every available shift. I'd eaten ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, so I could transfer money to her account. I'd postponed my own career advancement, turning down opportunities because I was too exhausted from working multiple jobs to pursue them. And when I needed her for 4 hours, I was asking too much. I was treating her like a servant. Rachel? Lisa's voice snapped me back to the present. Are you still here? I really need to get ready. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. When had she become this person? Or had she always been this way? And I'd just been too busy trying to be the good older sister to notice. The venue, I heard myself say. The garden estate. That's a beautiful location. Lisa's face lit up immediately, all traces of irritation vanishing. Oh my God, isn't it? Tyler and I fell in love with it the moment we saw it. The outdoor ceremony space, the reception hall with those crystal chandeliers, the fountain for photos. It's absolutely perfect. And expensive, I added. $15,000 for the venue alone, wasn't it? 16, actually, but it's worth every penny. She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. You understand, right? A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You can't cut corners on something that important. Unlike raising a child, apparently. Unlike building a career. Unlike having a sister who shows up when you need her. Right, I said. Once in a lifetime. Exactly. Which is why I can't possibly spare time for babysitting right now. There's just too much to do. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night, then the ceremony on Saturday. Every minute is accounted for. I shifted Ethan to my other hip. He was getting heavy, but I barely felt the weight. My mind was racing, calculating, adding up every sacrifice I'd made. Not just the money, though, that was staggering enough, but the time, the energy, the opportunities I'd passed up because my little sister needed me. When Lisa had gotten engaged 10 months ago, she'd come to me crying. Tyler was perfect, she'd said. The one. But they couldn't afford the wedding she wanted. His family was working class, hardworking, but without substantial savings. Our parents had made it clear they couldn't contribute much, not with Dad's medical bills from his heart surgery last year. I don't want to start my marriage in debt, Lisa had sobbed into my shoulder. But I can't have some cheap, simple wedding, Rachel. I just can't. All my friends are having these incredible celebrations, and I want that too. Is that so wrong? I'd held her and promised to help. That's what big sisters do, right? They help. They sacrifice. They put family first. I'd started picking up extra shifts immediately. I'd dipped into the savings I'd been building for Ethan's future. The education fund I'd been contributing to since the day he was born. I'd canceled my own small luxuries. The monthly massage that helped with the back pain from standing all day. The occasional dinner out with friends that kept me sane. Every week, I'd transferred money to Lisa's account. account. 500 here, 1,000 there. Sometimes more when a big payment was due. I'd watched my bank balance shrink while her wedding Pinterest board grew, and I'd told myself it was worth it. That's what family means. Supporting each other. Being there. Earth to Rachel, Lisa said, waving her hand in front of my face. Seriously, what's with you today? You're being weird. Just thinking, I said quietly. Well, think somewhere else. I have a lot to do. She picked up her phone again, already scrolling. Oh, and before you go, did you transfer that final payment for the photographer? He sent me a reminder yesterday. The photographer, another $3,000 for the premium package with the second shooter and the custom album. Money I'd borrowed from my retirement account, accepting the early withdrawal penalty because Lisa absolutely had to have this particular photographer who'd shot her friend's wedding. About that, I started. Rachel, please don't tell me there's a problem. The wedding is in 3 days. 3 days. Everything needs to be paid in full. I looked down at Ethan. He'd laid his head on my shoulder, his little hand clutching my shirt. He was such a good kid, even when he was tired and cranky from teething. He deserved a mother who was present, who wasn't working herself to exhaustion to fund someone else's fairy tale. What kind of example was I setting for him? That family means letting yourself be used? That love means sacrificing your own well-being and getting nothing in return? You're right, I said finally. Everything does need to be paid in full. Lisa visibly relaxed. Thank God. I knew I could count on you, Rach. You always come through. I always have, I agreed. But there's something I need to check first, about those payments. What's there to check? You just need to transfer the money. I pulled out my phone with my free hand, the one not holding Ethan. Actually, I need to review some things with the vendors, make sure everything's in order. Lisa's eyes narrowed slightly. Why would you need to do that? Everything's already arranged. Just being thorough. I was already pulling up my contacts, my heart pounding. You know me. I like to make sure all the details are handled properly. Rachel, what's going on? I looked at my sister one more time, at her perfectly styled hair, her designer jeans, her manicured nails. Everything about her screamed privilege, comfort, someone who'd never had to choose between paying for her child's pediatrician appointment or keeping the lights on. Nothing's going on, I said, heading toward the door. I just need to make some calls, confirm some things. But what about the photographer payment? I paused at the threshold, Ethan heavy in my arms but steady, grounding. I'll take care of it. Today, Rachel. It needs to be today. I said I'll take care of it. I walked out before she could say anything else. The moment I got to my car, I strapped Ethan into his car seat and sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking. Not from fear, from something else entirely. Something that felt like clarity, sharp and cold and absolute. I pulled up my call log and started dialing. The first number belonged to the venue coordinator at the Garden Estate. Good morning, this is Rachel Thompson. I need to speak to you about the Bennett Sullivan wedding scheduled for this Saturday. The coordinator's cheerful voice came through. Oh yes, everything's all set for Saturday. We're so excited. The deposit and final payment were both received on time. Is there something you needed to add? Actually, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need to discuss a cancellation. There was a pause. A cancellation? But the wedding is in 3 days. I'm aware. I'm the one who paid for it. All $16,000 came from my account, and I'd like to cancel. Ms. Thompson, I'm not sure I understand. The contract is under Lisa Bennett's name, but the payment method is mine. My credit card, my bank account. Check your records. I could hear typing on the other end. Another pause, longer this time. You're right, the coordinator said slowly. All payments were made from your accounts. But Ms. Thompson, the cancellation fee at this point would be substantial. We have a 72-hour clause that means you'd only receive a 20% refund of the total amount paid. 20%. That meant I'd lose nearly $13,000. But I'd also lose my self-respect if I let this continue. What if I told you that the person getting married isn't aware the wedding is being canceled? Another pause. That would be highly unusual and potentially legally complicated. The money is mine, the decision is mine, correct? Technically, yes. Since you made all the payments, you do have the authority to cancel. But I strongly recommend you discuss this with the bride first. I thought about Lisa's face, the contempt when she'd called me her servant, the casual cruelty when she'd dismissed my child, my career, my needs. No discussion necessary, I said. I'd like to proceed with the cancellation immediately. The venue coordinator put me on hold for 3 minutes. 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours, sitting in my car with Ethan babbling happily in his car seat behind me, completely unaware that I was about to blow up his aunt's entire world. When she came back on the line, her voice was professional but cautious. Ms. Thompson, I've confirmed everything with my manager. We can process the cancellation, but we'll need written confirmation via email. Can you send that within the next hour? I'll send it in 10 minutes. And you understand the financial implications? With the 72-hour clause, you'll forfeit $12,800. We can only refund $3,200. I'd worked so hard for that money. Extra shifts, overnight shifts, weekends. Every dollar had been earned with exhaustion and sacrifice, but keeping it meant keeping a lie. It meant continuing to enable Lisa's entitlement, her casual cruelty, her complete disregard for anyone but herself. I understand. Process the cancellation. After I hung up, I sat there for a moment staring at my phone. Then I opened my email and typed out the confirmation. My fingers didn't shake. I sent it, watched the confirmation receipt pop up, and moved to the next call. The bakery was easier. The owner, Mrs. Chen, answered on the second ring. Rachel, how wonderful to hear from you. I'm putting the finishing touches on Lisa's cake design. It's going to be stunning. Mrs. Chen, I need to cancel the order. Silence. Then carefully. Cancel? The wedding is Saturday. I know. I'm the one who paid the $3,000 $30,000 deposit and the balance. I need to cancel. But Rachel, honey, I've already started the work. The tiers are baked. The fondant is prepared. This is a custom design. I can't just repurpose it. Guilt twisted in my stomach. Mrs. Chen had always been kind to me, had given me a discount on Ethan's first birthday cake when money was tight. But this wasn't about her. This was about drawing a line that should have been drawn months ago. I'll forfeit the deposit, I said. Whatever you need to keep for the work you've already done, but I can't let this wedding happen on my money. Does Lisa know? She will soon enough. Mrs. Chen sighed. I can't talk you out of this? No, ma'am. Then I'll process it. But Rachel, whatever's happening between you two, I hope you know what you're doing. Family is complicated, but it's also all we have. After I hung up, I sat with those words. Family is all we have. Except, what kind of family treats you like a servant? What kind of family takes and gives nothing back? Not even 4 hours of babysitting. The photographer was next, then the florist, the DJ, the rental company for the chairs and tables. Each conversation got easier and harder at the same time. Easier because I knew I was doing the right thing. Harder because with each cancellation, I was making the decision more real, more irreversible. By the time I finished the last call, nearly 2 hours had passed. Ethan had fallen asleep in his car seat, his little mouth open, his cheeks flushed. I needed to get him home for his proper nap. But first, I had one more thing to do. I opened my text messages and started typing to Lisa. The wedding is canceled. Everything. Venue, catering, photographer, flowers, cake, DJ, all of it. I've spent the last 2 hours calling every vendor and canceling every service I paid for. You have until Saturday to figure something else out, though I doubt that's possible at this point. Maybe you should have thought about that before you called me your servant. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it. Too much explanation. Lisa didn't deserve my justification. Instead, I wrote, I canceled everything. The wedding is off. Figure it out yourself. I hit send before I could second guess myself. Then I turned off my phone. I drove home in silence, Ethan sleeping peacefully in the back. When I got there, I carried him inside, laid him in his crib, and stood there watching him sleep, his little chest rising and falling, his tiny fists curled near his face. This was what mattered, not elaborate weddings or crystal chandeliers or designer dresses. This. My phone stayed off for the rest of the afternoon. When Ethan woke up, we played with blocks. We read his favorite book about the hungry caterpillar 4 times. We made mac and cheese for dinner, and I let him eat it with his hands because he was learning and trying, and that was enough. At 8 o'clock, after Ethan was asleep for the night, I finally turned my phone back on. 147 missed calls, 93 text messages, 26 voicemails. I didn't read or listen to any of them. Instead, I made one more call to my mother. Rachel? Finally, Mom answered on the first ring, her voice frantic. I've been trying to reach you for hours. Lisa called me, absolutely hysterical. She says you canceled her wedding. Please tell me that's not true. It's true. Rachel Ann Thompson, what on earth possessed you to do something like this? Your sister is devastated. She's been crying for hours. Do you have any idea what you've done? I know exactly what I've done, Mom. I stopped being a doormat. This isn't about being a doormat. This is about family. You made a commitment to help Lisa with her wedding. A commitment she didn't honor when I asked for 4 hours of help. 4 hours, Mom. That's all I needed. She explained that. She had appointments, things to do for the wedding. You could have found another sitter. I shouldn't have had to. Not when I've spent the last 8 months funding every detail of her wedding. $20,000, Mom. Do you have any idea how much I sacrificed? The shifts I worked, the opportunities I gave up, the savings I depleted? No one forced you to do that. The words hit like a slap. You're right. No one forced me. I chose to help because that's what I thought family meant. But apparently, family only means something when Lisa needs something. When I need help, I'm being unreasonable. That's not fair, Rachel. What's not fair is working myself to exhaustion while my sister treats me like hired help. What's not fair is being told I'm asking too much when all I wanted was a few hours of babysitting. What's not fair is sacrificing everything and being shown zero gratitude, zero respect, zero consideration. Mom was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, but still disapproving. I know Lisa can be difficult sometimes, but this wedding meant everything to her. You knew that, and now you've ruined it 3 days before the ceremony. How is she supposed to recover from this? That's her problem to solve, just like finding childcare was apparently mine. Where is this coming from, Rachel? You've never been this vindictive. I'm not being vindictive. I'm being done. There's a difference. Your father is going to be so disappointed when he hears about this. And there it was, the familiar refrain of my childhood. Lisa throws a tantrum, but I'm the one who needs to be more understanding. Lisa breaks the rules, but I'm the one who should know better. Lisa takes and takes, but I'm the one who's being selfish when I finally say no. Dad can feel however he wants, I said quietly. I'm 32 years old with a child of my own. I don't need his approval anymore. You sound like a stranger right now. Maybe I've been a stranger to myself for too long. Maybe it's time I stopped being whoever everyone else needed me to be. Mom sighed, long and heavy. I can't support this, Rachel. What you've done is cruel and unnecessary. Lisa is family. You don't abandon family when things get hard. Lisa abandoned me first. She just did it gradually enough that nobody noticed. I hung up before Mom could respond. My hands were shaking now, but not from regret, from release. Every conversation, every canceled vendor, every person who tried to make me feel guilty was proving exactly why I'd needed to do this. The text messages were a predictable mix of outrage and manipulation. Lisa's were the worst. How could you do this to me? You're destroying my life. enough. Tyler is going to leave me because of you. I can't believe you would be this selfish. You've always been jealous of me. This is abuse. I scrolled through them without responding. Then I saw one from Tyler, Lisa's fiance. Rachel, I don't know what's happening between you and Lisa, but this seems extreme. Can we talk? There has to be a way to fix this. Tyler was a decent guy. Quiet, hardworking, genuinely seemed to love Lisa despite her high-maintenance tendencies. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But he'd chosen to marry someone who thought "I'm not your servant" was an acceptable response to a simple request for help. I typed back, "There's nothing to fix." Lisa got exactly what she gave me. Nothing. The responses kept flooding in. Friends of Lisa's I barely knew, lecturing me about family loyalty, distant cousins weighing in with opinions. Even Lisa's maid of honor sent a lengthy text about how disappointed she was in me, how she'd always thought I was the mature one. I turned on Do Not Disturb and opened my laptop. There was one more thing I needed to do. I logged into my online banking and started pulling transaction records. Every single payment I'd made for Lisa's wedding, I saved as a screenshot. The venue deposit, the dress purchase, the catering down payment, the photographer retainer, the flower arrangement order, every single one. When I was done, I had 43 different transactions, totaling exactly $20,372. I created a folder on my desktop and saved them all. Then I wrote a simple document, Wedding Expenses Paid by Rachel Thompson for Lisa Bennett, October 2023 through May 2024. Total, $20,372. Services canceled May 29, 2024, 3 days before scheduled ceremony. Reason, bride refused 4-hour babysitting request, stating, "I'm not your servant." I saved the document with the screenshots. I didn't know if I'd ever need them, but I had them. Evidence. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't cruel, wasn't the villain in this story. At 10:30, someone knocked on my door. Loud, aggressive pounding that made me jump. I looked through the peephole. Lisa. Her face was blotchy from crying, her hair disheveled, her eyes wild with anger and desperation. I didn't open the door. "Rachel," she screamed through the wood. "I know you're in there. Open this door right now." I stayed silent, motionless. "You can't do this. You can't just ruin my wedding. Open the door." My neighbor's porch light flicked on. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly widow next door, peered out with concern. "Rachel, please." Lisa's voice cracked. "Please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I was just stressed about the wedding. You know how I get when I'm stressed." I did know. She got mean. She got selfish. She got exactly like she'd been that morning. Only usually I let it slide because that's just Lisa, or she doesn't mean it, or family forgives. Just open the door. We can talk about this. We can fix it. Please, Rachel. I'm begging you. Begging. That was new. In our entire relationship, Lisa had never begged me for anything. She'd demanded, expected, assumed, but never begged. "I'll do anything," she said, her voice dropping to something like desperation. "I'll babysit whenever you need. I'll help with Ethan. I'll be a better sister. Just please, please help me fix this." I stood on the other side of the door, listening to my sister fall apart, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no triumph. Just a hollow kind of peace, like the silence after a storm. "Rachel," she pounded on the door again. "Don't you dare ignore me. This is my wedding, my future. How can you be so heartless?" Heartless. Coming from the woman who'd called me her servant. The pounding continued. "If you don't fix this, I'll never forgive you. Do you hear me? Never. You'll lose me as a sister." That, I realized, might actually be the point. When she finally left 20 minutes later, after Mrs. Patterson threatened to call the police, I sat down on my couch and let out a breath I'd been holding for what felt like 8 months. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom. "Your father and I think you need to reconsider. This vendetta helps no one. Be the bigger person. Be the bigger person." The refrain of my entire life. Be mature, be understanding, be selfless, be the one who gives and never asks for anything in return. I deleted the message. Tomorrow I'd deal with the fallout. Tomorrow I'd face the judgment and the guilt trips and the accusations. Tomorrow I'd figure out what came next. But tonight, I'd done something I should have done a long time ago. I'd chosen myself. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not the frantic buzzing of my phone, not the pounding on my door, just silence and Ethan babbling softly in his crib down the hall. For the first time in months, I hadn't dreamed about vendor payments or wedding timelines or Lisa's demands. I'd actually slept through the night. I made coffee, fed Ethan his breakfast, and checked my phone. The messages had slowed to a trickle. Apparently, people had exhausted their outrage during the night. There were a few new ones from extended family members I rarely spoke to, all variations on the same theme. How could I be so cruel? Weddings are sacred. Family comes first. But there was one message that caught my attention. From Tyler, sent at 3 in the morning. I spent all night talking to Lisa. Really talking, maybe for the first time. "She finally told me about your conversation yesterday morning, about what she said to you. I had no idea she'd refused to help with Ethan, or that you'd been paying for everything. I thought our families were splitting costs. I'm not excusing what you did, but I understand it better now. We need to talk, all 3 of us." I stared at that message for a long time. Tyler didn't know. Of course he didn't. Lisa had been playing the role of generous sister, letting everyone believe our family was contributing equally to her dream wedding. She'd been taking credit for sacrifices she never made. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I called the hospital where I'd been scheduled to interview. The position was still open, but my interview slot had been given to someone else when I'd called yesterday to cancel. "I understand," I told called the HR representative. Is there any possibility of rescheduling? There was typing on the other end. We have an opening next Thursday at 2. Would that work? Perfectly. This time, I'd find childcare. This time, I'd make it work without relying on family who'd proven they couldn't be relied on. After I hung up, I sat down with my laptop and started doing something I should have done months ago. I calculated my actual financial situation. My checking account, $843. My savings account, $1,200. My credit card debt, $12,000. The refund coming from the venue cancellation, $3,200. I'd depleted almost everything for Lisa's wedding. The college fund I'd started for Ethan had been drained from $5,000 to nothing. The emergency fund I'd built over years was gone. I was one unexpected expense away from disaster, but I wasn't funding someone else's fairy tale anymore. I started applying for additional part-time positions online, medical billing from home, weekend shifts at other clinics, anything that would let me rebuild without sacrificing time with Ethan. Within 2 hours, I'd submitted applications to 7 different opportunities. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my father standing on the porch, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Rachel," he said simply. "Dad, can we talk?" I glanced back at Ethan, playing with his blocks on the living room floor. "I have 10 minutes. Ethan needs lunch." Dad nodded and stepped inside. He didn't sit, just stood in my small entryway, looking uncomfortable in a way I'd rarely seen. "Your mother told me what happened," he started. "The whole story, what Lisa said to you. And I think you overreacted." He held up a hand before I could respond. "But I also think Lisa was out of line. Way out of line." "That's it? That's all you came to say?" Dad sighed. "Rachel, I know your sister can be difficult. She's always been a bit spoiled, and your mother and we enabled that. We thought we were helping, giving her confidence. But somewhere along the way, she started expecting things instead of appreciating them. You think? Don't be sarcastic. It doesn't suit you." He moved to the window, looking out at the street. "The thing is, you've always been the easy one, the responsible one, the one we didn't have to worry about. Maybe that meant we didn't pay as much attention as we should have." "Maybe." The word came out sharper than I intended. "Definitely," he corrected, turning back to face me. "You're right. We took you for granted. I took you for granted, and I'm sorry for that." I waited. There had to be a but coming. "But canceling the wedding 3 days before the ceremony? That's nuclear, Rachel. That's scorched earth. You've made your point. You've taught Lisa a lesson. Now it's time to fix this." There it was. No. Dad blinked. "No, I'm not fixing anything. The wedding stays canceled. Lisa can figure it out herself, or she can reschedule when she can actually afford it. Rachel, be reasonable. Tyler's family is coming in from out of state. Guests have made arrangements. There's a rehearsal dinner tonight that people are already traveling for. Not my problem. You're being vindictive." "I'm being done," I corrected, echoing what I'd told Mom. "There's a difference. I spent 8 months sacrificing for this wedding. I worked myself to exhaustion. I drained my savings. I put my own life on hold. And when I asked for 4 hours of help, I was told I wasn't her servant. So no, Dad, I'm not fixing this. I'm not being the bigger person. I'm not doing the mature thing and swallowing my hurt to keep the peace. I'm done." Dad's jaw tightened. "You're my daughter, and I love you. But right now, I don't recognize you." "Good," I said quietly. "Because the person you recognized was someone who didn't know how to say no. Someone who let herself be used because she thought that's what love meant. I'm glad you don't recognize her. I'm trying really hard not to be her anymore." We stood in silence for a moment. Then Dad pulled out his wallet and placed $500 bills on my side table. "What's this?" I asked. "Your mother and I know you spent a lot on the wedding. This isn't much, but it's something." I looked at that money. $500 would cover Ethan's pediatrician appointment next week and still leave enough for groceries. But taking it felt like acceptance, like agreement that I should shoulder the cost of Lisa's wedding while they contributed token amounts. "Keep it," I said. "Give it to Lisa. She's going to need it more than I will." "Rachel, I mean it. I don't want your guilt money, Dad. I want what I asked for in the first place. Respect, consideration, to be valued as much as Lisa is valued. But since that doesn't seem possible, I'll settle for being left alone." Dad picked up the money slowly, his face unreadable. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." After he left, I fed Ethan lunch and put him down for his nap. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I took a bath, a real bath, with bubbles and music and no timeline, no urgency, no guilt about taking 30 minutes just for myself. My phone rang twice during that bath. I ignored it both times. When I got out, there was a new voicemail from Lisa. "Rachel, it's me. I know you don't want to talk to me, but please just listen. The rehearsal dinner is tonight. Mom already paid for it, so it's happening regardless. Tyler's parents are flying in right now. His whole family is coming. If you don't fix this, I'm going to have to tell them all that the wedding is canceled. Do you understand how humiliating that's going to be? How am I supposed to face them? How is Tyler supposed to explain this to his family? They already think I'm high maintenance. This is going to prove them right. Please, Rachel. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for Tyler. He doesn't deserve this. His family doesn't deserve this. Just please, fix it. Please." I deleted the voicemail without finishing it. The afternoon passed quietly. Ethan and I read books, played with his toy cars, watched a kids' show about dinosaurs. Normal things. The things I should have been doing instead of working extra shifts to fund someone else's dreams. At 5 o'clock, my phone rang again. An unknown number this time. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Is this Rachel Thompson?" A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. "Yes. This is Margaret Sullivan, Tyler's mother. I hope you don't mind that Tyler gave me your number. I'm calling about about the situation with the wedding. My stomach tightened. Mrs. Sullivan, please, let me finish. I've been hearing different stories from different people, and I'd like to hear your side. No judgment, no pressure. Just what happened? Something in her tone made me pause. She didn't sound angry or accusatory, just tired and maybe a little sad. So I told her everything. The 8 months of payments, the sacrifices, the morning Lisa refused to babysit and called me her servant, the decision to cancel, the backlash, the pressure from my family to fix it. When I finished, there was a long silence. $20,000. Mrs. Sullivan finally said, "You paid for the entire wedding." "Yes. And Lisa told Tyler your parents were covering half." "She lied." Another pause. "Ms. Thompson, I won't pretend to understand family dynamics that aren't my own, but I will say this. My son loves your sister. Deeply, genuinely loves her. But he's been planning a future with someone he doesn't fully know. Someone who's been lying about fundamental things." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. Tyler's a good guy. He didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this. No, he didn't, but neither did you. And between you and me, I'm glad this happened now rather than after they were married. Better to know who you're marrying before you say I do. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a while. Tyler's mother wasn't angry at me. She was grateful. That realization felt strange, like I'd been bracing for an attack and received understanding instead. At 7 o'clock, during what should have been the rehearsal dinner, my phone lit up with a series of texts from various people. Apparently, Lisa had shown up at the restaurant and made a scene when she realized the wedding was really, truly canceled. My cousin Jennifer sent me a video. In it, Lisa was sobbing at a table full of Tyler's family, mascara running, voice breaking. "My sister ruined everything. She's jealous because I'm getting married and she's a single mom. She canceled my wedding out of spite, out of pure spite." Tyler sat beside her, his face blank, not comforting her. His parents exchanged glances. His grandmother whispered something to his grandfather. The video ended with Tyler standing up and walking out of the restaurant. Lisa called after him, but he didn't turn back. Jennifer's message came through. "Girl, I think you just saved that man's life." Tyler's family is not impressed with Lisa right now. His mom is asking some very pointed questions about who actually paid for everything. I turned off my phone again. That night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat in his nursery in the rocking chair I'd bought secondhand when he was born. The same chair where I'd rocked him through countless sleepless nights, where I'd nursed him and sung to him and promised him that I'd always be there, always do better, always give him the life he deserved. I'd kept that promise, but somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten to make the same promise to myself. Not anymore. Tomorrow was Friday, the day before what should have been Lisa's wedding. I knew the pressure would intensify. I knew my family would make one last desperate push to get me to reverse the cancellation, but I also knew something else. I'd survived the worst of it. The initial explosion, the guilt trips, the manipulation. I'd stood firm through all of it. I could stand firm through one more day. And after that, I'd start rebuilding. Not just my bank account, but my boundaries, my self-respect, my understanding of what family should really mean. Ethan stirred in his crib, making soft, sleeping sounds. I reached through the bars and gently touched his hand. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. "Better than okay. I promise." And this time, I meant it. Friday morning arrived with unexpected clarity. The sky was bright, almost aggressively cheerful for what should have been the day before Lisa's wedding. I woke up before Ethan, made coffee, and checked my phone with a strange sense of calm. 32 new messages, but only one that made my blood run cold. It was from Tyler, sent at 6 in the morning. "Rachel, I need you to know something before you hear it from someone else. I called off the engagement last night, not because of the wedding cancellation, because of everything it revealed. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this. You deserved better from your family." I read it 3 times. Tyler had called off the engagement, not just postponed the wedding, ended the entire relationship. Before I could process that, my phone rang. "Mom, of course. Did you see what you did?" Her voice was shrill, breaking. "Did you see what you've accomplished? Tyler broke up with Lisa last night. Broke up with her, Rachel, at the rehearsal dinner, in front of his entire family. She's completely destroyed. She's been crying all night. She won't eat, won't sleep, won't talk to anyone. This is your fault. You did this." "No," I said quietly. "Lisa did this when she lied to Tyler about who paid for the wedding, when she treated me like garbage after I sacrificed everything for her. This is consequence, Mom, not cruelty. She made a mistake. She was stressed and said something she didn't mean. How does that justify destroying her entire future? She didn't just say something she didn't mean. She showed me exactly who she is, and apparently Tyler saw it too." Mom made a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. "I hope you're satisfied. I hope this revenge was worth losing your sister forever." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there, coffee growing cold in my hands, feeling the weight of what had happened. Tyler had ended things. The wedding wasn't just postponed. It was over. The relationship was over. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. Ethan's crying from his room pulled me back to reality. I went through the motions of the morning routine, diaper change, breakfast, cartoons, but my mind was elsewhere, running through scenarios, wondering what came next. At 10 o'clock, someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole and saw Tyler standing there looking like he hadn't slept in days. I opened the door slowly. "Tyler, can I come in? I promise I'm not here to yell at you or try to change your mind about anything. I just need to talk, honestly." I let him in. He sat on my couch, and I took the chair across from him, Ethan playing with blocks between us. "I didn't know," Tyler started, his voice rough. "I swear to God God, Rachel, I had no idea you'd paid for everything. Lisa told me your parents were handling half the costs. She said they wanted to contribute but asked her to keep it quiet because they didn't want attention. I believed her. Why would you question it? You had no reason not to trust her. That's the problem, he said, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. After what happened yesterday, after my mom told me about your conversation, I started looking back at other things. Little things that didn't make sense at the time, but I brushed off. The designer clothes she bought when she said she was shopping at discount stores. The spa days with friends when she claimed she had a Groupon. The new car she leased saying she got an amazing deal. All lies, Rachel. She was spending money she didn't have, probably expecting you to bail her out when the bills came due. I thought about the credit card statements Lisa had shown me months ago, crying about how she couldn't afford her payments. The $2,000 I'd transferred to help her catch up, believing she'd fallen behind because of wedding expenses. There's more, Tyler continued. Last night, after I walked out of the rehearsal dinner, I went back to her apartment. I needed space to think, but I also needed my stuff. While I was packing, I found bank statements hidden in her closet. She has $17,000 in credit card debt. $17,000, Rachel. She told me she had maybe $3,000. She's been lying about everything. Tyler, I'm sorry. Don't. He held up a hand. Don't apologize. You exposed something I needed to see. If we'd gotten married, if I'd legally tied myself to her financial chaos and her dishonesty, I'd be drowning right now. You did me a favor. A painful, brutal, necessary favor. We sat in silence for a moment, watching Ethan stack blocks and knock them down, oblivious to the adult chaos around him. What are you going to do now? I asked. I'm moving back home for a while. My parents have a spare room. I need to figure out my life without Lisa in it. He paused. What about you? I'm going to rebuild. I have a job interview next week for a better nursing position. I'm applying for additional work. I'm going to get my finances back on track and focus on Ethan. That's it. No more sacrificing for people who don't appreciate it. Tyler nodded. Good. You deserve that. He stood to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're an amazing sister. Lisa just couldn't see it because she was too busy taking advantage of it. After he left, I finally let myself cry. Not from guilt or regret, but from relief. Tyler didn't hate me. He understood. That validation from someone who had every reason to be furious with me meant more than I could articulate. The rest of Friday passed in a strange limbo. Messages continued flooding in, but they'd shifted in tone. Some extended family members who'd initially condemned me were now asking questions. Had Lisa really refused to babysit? Had I really paid for everything? Why would she lie to Tyler? The narrative was changing, slowly but definitely. Saturday arrived, the day that should have been Lisa's wedding day. I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months, like some weight I'd been carrying for years had finally been lifted. I dressed Ethan in his favorite dinosaur shirt and took him to the park. We fed the ducks, went on the swings, ate ice cream even though it was barely noon. Normal things, happy things. Things I'd neglected while working myself to death for someone who called me her servant. At 3 o'clock, exactly when the ceremony should have been starting, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Ms. Thompson, this is Amanda Wright from the venue. I hope I'm not disturbing you. My stomach tightened. Is there a problem with the refund? No, nothing like that. Actually, I'm calling because something happened today that I thought you should know about. Your sister showed up at the venue this morning. What? She arrived around 10 with a small group of people, maybe 15 total. She had her dress, some flowers from a grocery store, and a friend who apparently got ordained online. She tried to have the wedding anyway. I couldn't breathe. What happened? We couldn't let her. The venue wasn't booked. We had another event scheduled for this afternoon, and security had to escort her out. It was quite a scene. She kept insisting that this was her wedding day, that the venue was hers. She showed them old email confirmations that were clearly canceled. When they tried to explain that the booking had been terminated, she completely broke down. I closed my eyes. I didn't know she would do that. Ms. Thompson, I've worked in this industry for 15 years. I've seen a lot of brides under stress. But what I saw today wasn't stress. It was desperation, and maybe a reality check that was long overdue. After we hung up, I sat on the park bench watching Ethan play, trying to process it. Lisa had tried to have the wedding anyway, with 15 people and grocery store flowers, without a legal venue or proper permits, just showing up and expecting the world to bend to her will, the way it always had. That evening, my cousin Jennifer called. Rachel, you need to hear this. Lisa posted something on Facebook, like full meltdown public post. I don't have Facebook anymore. I'm sending you screenshots. You need to see this. The images came through a moment later. Lisa's post, written at 4 in the afternoon. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I'm sitting alone in my apartment, my wedding dress hanging in the corner because my sister decided to ruin everything. Rachel Thompson destroyed my wedding, destroyed my relationship with Tyler, destroyed my future, all because I couldn't babysit one time, and she took everything from me. She's vindictive, jealous, and cruel. She's always been jealous of me. She couldn't stand seeing me happy, so she sabotaged my wedding just to hurt me. I hope she's satisfied. I hope ruining my life was worth it. I'll never forgive her. Never. The post had over 200 comments. I scrolled through them expecting a pile-on. Instead, I found something different. Sarah Martinez, Lisa, didn't Rachel pay for your entire wedding? That's what I heard. Kevin Chen, your cousin Jennifer told me Rachel asked you to babysit once after spending $20,000 on your wedding. and you called her your servant. Is that true? Amanda Foster. Girl, if someone funded my wedding and asked for 4 hours of help, I'd do it in a heartbeat. What's really going on here? Margaret Sullivan, Tyler's mother. I think it's time to be honest about what really happened, Lisa. My son and I both know the truth now. The comments kept coming, people calling Lisa out, asking for her side of the story, pointing out inconsistencies. Some defended her, but they were being challenged by others who knew fragments of the truth. The narrative had completely shifted. By evening, Lisa's post was gone, deleted, but screenshots were circulating in family group chats and friend circles. The truth was out, spreading like wildfire through our social network. My phone rang again. Dad this time. I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. A real one. I waited. I talked to Tyler today. He told me everything about the lies, the debt, the manipulation, and I talked to some other people who were at that rehearsal dinner. I heard what Lisa said, how she acted. Rachel, I'm so sorry. We raised her to think the world revolved around her. We enabled her worst qualities because it was easier than holding her accountable, and we let you pay the price, literally and figuratively. Dad, let me finish. You were right to do what you did, not just with the wedding, but with everything. You drew a line that we should have drawn years ago. Lisa needs to learn that actions have consequences, that relationships require reciprocity, that you can't just take from people who love you and give nothing back. I'm sorry it took this long for me to see it. Tears burned in my eyes. Thank you. Your mother is coming around too, slowly. She's heartbroken about Tyler and Lisa breaking up, but even she's starting to see how much Lisa lied, how much she took you for granted. We both are. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, Ethan asleep in his room, and let myself feel it all. The validation, the relief, the sadness for what could have been if my family had just treated me with basic respect. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Lisa would have to face her debt, her lies, her consequences. Tyler would have to rebuild his life. My parents would have to confront their role in creating the dynamic that led to this explosion. But tonight, on what should have been my sister's wedding day, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. 3 weeks after what should have been Lisa's wedding day, I sat across from the hiring manager at Memorial Hospital, my interview for the pediatric nursing position finally happening. Your references are excellent, Dr. Patricia Chen said, reviewing my file. Your supervisor at the clinic speaks very highly of your dedication and skill, but I notice you've been in the same position for 4 years. Why are you looking to move now? I'd prepared for this question, but the real answer was more complicated than any rehearsed response. I've been putting my career advancement on hold to focus on family obligations. Recently, I realized that I need to prioritize my own growth and my son's future. I'm ready for that next step now. Dr. Chen studied me for a moment, then smiled. I appreciate the honesty. We're looking for someone who's committed to being here long term, not someone who's going to leave the moment a better offer comes along. When can you start? I got the job. $12 more per hour than my current position, better benefits, and a schedule that would actually let me see my son during daylight hours. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, from the parking lot, asking if she could watch Ethan for an extra hour so I could celebrate properly. She agreed immediately, refusing payment as always, insisting that helping with Ethan was her pleasure. Real family, I was learning, didn't keep score. That evening, I took myself out to dinner. Just me, at a small Italian restaurant I'd always wanted to try but never had the money or time for. I ordered wine, real pasta, tiramisu for dessert. I didn't check my phone every 5 minutes. I didn't calculate costs or feel guilty for spending money on myself. For the first time in years, I felt like a person, not just a resource. When I got home, there was a letter in my mailbox, Lisa's handwriting on the envelope. No return address. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. Rachel, I've started writing this letter a dozen times and deleted it every time. I don't know what to say that doesn't sound like an excuse or a justification, but Mom says I owe you an apology, and for once, I think she's right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for calling you my servant. I'm sorry for taking all your help for granted. I'm sorry for lying to Tyler, to our family, to everyone about the wedding costs. I'm sorry for expecting you to sacrifice everything while I gave nothing back. Tyler leaving me was the wake-up call I needed. Losing him, losing the wedding, losing the life I thought I was going to have. It forced me to look at myself in a way I never had before. I didn't like what I saw. I've been seeing a therapist. She says I have narcissistic tendencies and a deep sense of entitlement that stems from how Mom and Dad raised me. She says I've been using people my whole life without realizing it because I genuinely believed I deserved special treatment, that the world owed me something just for existing. You don't owe me forgiveness. I know that, but I want you to know that I'm trying to change. I got a second job to pay off my debt. I'm cutting back on expenses. I'm learning to live within my means instead of expecting bailouts. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to see me, but I needed you to know that what you did, as painful as it was, might have saved me from an even worse future. If I'd married Tyler while being this person, I would have destroyed him eventually, just like I've destroyed everything good in my life. I'm sorry, Rachel, for everything. Lisa. I read the letter 3 times. It sounded genuine. It sounded like actual self-awareness and accountability, but I also knew that words were easy. Change was hard. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That letter didn't erase 8 months of sacrifice or a lifetime of being treated as less than. It didn't undo the betrayal or the contempt or the casual cruelty, but it was something. A start, perhaps, or an ending with a shred of dignity. 2 months after the canceled wedding, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. The new job was challenging, but rewarding. I'd paid off half my credit card debt with the venue refund and my increased salary. Ethan had started at a wonderful daycare where he was thriving, making friends, learning new things every day. I'd also started saying no to my mother when she asked me to drive 3 hours to help clean out their garage, to distant relatives who suddenly needed financial advice that really meant financial assistance, to the guilt trips and the expectations and the assumption that I existed to serve everyone else's needs. It felt strange at first, like learning to use a muscle I'd never exercised, but it got easier with practice. One Saturday afternoon, I ran into Tyler at the grocery store. We both stopped, surprised, then smiled awkwardly. "Rachel, how are you?" "Good. Really good, actually. New job, things are settling down." "You?" "Same. Moved into my own place last month. Just me. No roommates, no complications. It's quiet, but it's mine." We stood in the produce aisle, two people whose lives had been tangled in someone else's chaos, now finding our footing separately. "I heard Lisa's working 2 jobs now," Tyler said carefully. Jennifer mentioned it. "Yeah, apparently she's serious about fixing her debt." "Good for her." He paused. "I don't hate her, you know. I'm not angry anymore. I just know I can't be with someone I can't trust, no matter how much I might have loved her. That's mature of you. Took me a while to get there, but my therapist says holding on to anger just gives people power over you, so I'm letting it go." He smiled. "Anyway, I should let you shop. But Rachel, thank you. I know this whole thing was awful for you too, but you saved me from making a huge mistake. I'll always be grateful for that." After he left, I stood there holding a bag of apples, feeling a strange sense of closure. Tyler had moved on. Lisa was supposedly changing. My parents were slowly learning to treat me with respect rather than expectation. And me? I was learning that being a good person didn't mean being a doormat, that loving your family didn't require sacrificing your self-worth, that sometimes the most important person to be loyal to is yourself. 3 months after the canceled wedding, Mom called with unexpected news. "Lisa's moving out," she said. "She found a studio apartment she can actually afford. It's small, nothing fancy, but it's what she can manage with her jobs." "That's good," I said neutrally. "She asked if you'd be there when she moves. She said she'd understand if you said no, but she wanted me to ask." I thought about it, really thought about it. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let Lisa figure it out herself the way I'd had to figure out so many things alone. But another part of me, the part that was healing rather than just wounded, recognized this for what it was. Not an opportunity for Lisa to use me again, but a chance for me to show up on my own terms. "I'll help," I said, "for 2 hours. That's it." Moving day was awkward. Lisa's new apartment was indeed tiny. A studio in a converted building with thin walls and old appliances. Nothing like the luxury condo she'd been living in, funded partially by credit cards and partially by expectations of marriage to Tyler. We moved boxes in silence at first. Then, as we carried her dismantled bed frame up 3 flights of stairs, Lisa spoke. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you." She set down her end of the frame. "Rachel, I know I sent that letter, but I need to say this in person. I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. Not just for what I said that day, but for years of taking you for granted, for treating you like you existed to serve me, for never appreciating everything you did." I looked at my sister. She'd lost weight, had circles under her eyes, wore clothes that were practical rather than fashionable. She looked tired. She looked humbled. She looked, for maybe the first time, like someone who understood consequences. "I appreciate you saying that," I said carefully, "but apologies don't erase history. They're just the first step toward building something different. I know, and I'm not asking for us to go back to how things were. I don't even think that's possible. But maybe, eventually, we could build something new, something more balanced. Maybe," I said. "But Lisa, if we're going to have any kind of relationship moving forward, things have to be different. Genuinely different. Not just words, but actions, reciprocity, respect, boundaries. I understand, and I'll prove it to you, however long it takes." We finished moving her in. When we were done, Lisa offered me lunch, but I declined. I'd done what I came to do. Anything more needed to be earned over time, not given freely and immediately. As I drove home, I thought about forgiveness, about whether Lisa deserved it, whether I was obligated to give it, whether holding back made me petty or self-protective. I decided it was probably both, and that was okay. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat at my kitchen table and did something I'd been avoiding. I calculated exactly how much money I'd lost in the wedding cancellation. Between the forfeited deposits and the refunds I never received, I'd lost $14,300. It was a staggering amount. Money that could have secured Ethan's childcare for a year. Money that could have been invested or saved or used for our future. But it had bought me something more valuable: self-respect, boundaries, a clear understanding of my worth, and a refusal to accept less than I deserved. $14,000 was expensive, but learning to choose myself, that was priceless. 6 months after the canceled wedding, life had settled into a new normal. I'd been promoted at work. Ethan was talking in full sentences. My debt was nearly gone. I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee with a nice paramedic I'd met at the hospital. My relationship with my parents had improved. They were making genuine efforts to acknowledge my needs, to spend time with Ethan, to treat me as more than just the responsible child they could ignore. Lisa and I talked occasionally. Short conversations, carefully boundaried. She'd sent Ethan a birthday present, modest but thoughtful. When I'd needed someone to watch him during a last-minute shift, she'd volunteered and actually showed up, on time, with activities planned. It wasn't trust yet, but it was progress. One evening, Mom Mom called with news that Lisa had paid off all her credit card debt. $17,000 cleared in 6 months through working 2 jobs and living minimally. She's really changed, Mom said. I never thought I'd see the day when Lisa would choose financial responsibility over designer handbags, but here we are. Good for her, I said, and meant it. She asks about you, wants to know if you're okay, how Ethan is doing. She doesn't push for more contact than you're willing to give, but she asks. That's all I can ask for right now. After we hung up, I thought about the person I'd been 6 months ago. Exhausted, depleted, resentful, but unable to name it. Working myself to death for approval that never came, for appreciation that was never offered. That person was gone now. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her worth and refused to accept less than she deserved, someone who had learned that the most important relationship you can have is the one with yourself. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. I know you're probably tired of hearing from me, but I wanted you to know that I got into a financial planning class at the community college, starting next semester, because of you, because you showed me that I needed to change. Thank you for that, even though it hurt like hell at the time. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, I'm proud of you. Keep going. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acknowledgement, recognition that change, real change, was possible, that people could grow if they chose to do the work. Whether Lisa and I would ever have a close relationship again remained to be seen. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't, but at least now, any relationship we built would be on equal footing, based on mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. And that, I realized, was worth more than any wedding could ever be. 1 year after the canceled wedding, I stood in my new apartment, a real 2-bedroom with a yard where Ethan could play, and looked around at what I'd built. Not just the physical space, but the life that filled it. The promotion at Memorial Hospital had led to another one. I was now a charge nurse in the pediatric unit, mentoring new graduates and overseeing patient care. The work was demanding but fulfilling in ways my old job had never been. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. Ethan had started preschool, where his teachers praised his kindness and curiosity. He had friends, playdates, a normal childhood unburdened by his mother's exhaustion or resentment. When he talked about his day, I was actually present to listen, not distracted by bills I couldn't pay or family demands I couldn't meet. My dating life had evolved too. David, the paramedic, had become a steady presence. Nothing rushed, nothing desperate, just 2 people who enjoyed each other's company, building something at their own pace. He'd met Ethan last month and they'd bonded over dinosaurs and pizza. The financial recovery had been slower than I'd hoped, but steady. My credit card was paid off. I'd rebuilt Ethan's college fund. I even had 6 months of emergency savings, a buffer I'd never had before, a safety net that let me breathe. My relationship with my parents had found a sustainable equilibrium. We had dinner once a month, always at a restaurant, so there was a natural time limit. Dad asked about my work with genuine interest. Mom had learned to accept no when I set boundaries. They weren't perfect, but they were trying. That was enough. Lisa remained the most complicated thread in the tapestry of my life. We'd slowly rebuilt something that resembled a sisterly relationship, though it looked nothing like what we'd had before. We texted weekly, met for coffee monthly, and she never asked for anything beyond my time and attention. She'd graduated from her financial planning class and started working as a junior accountant at a small firm. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The sister who'd been drowning in debt now helping others manage their money. She lived modestly, drove a used car, and seemed genuinely content with a simpler life. Last month, she'd called with unexpected news. I'm seeing someone, she said, her voice tentative. His name is Marcus. He's a teacher. I met him at the community college. That's great, Lisa. It's different this time. I told him everything. About the wedding, about the debt, about who I used to be. I didn't want to start something built on lies. He deserves honesty. How did he react? He said everyone has a past. What matters is who you choose to be now. She paused. Rachel, I know this might be too much to ask, but when the time is right, I'd like you to meet him. Only if you're comfortable. No pressure. I'd met Marcus 2 weeks later. He was quiet, thoughtful, nothing like Tyler's polished confidence. He taught 5th grade math and talked about his students with genuine affection. When Lisa stepped away to take a phone call, he'd turned to me. She talks about you a lot, he said, about how you changed her life by holding her accountable. That takes real strength. It didn't feel strong at the time. It felt terrifying. The important things usually do. Watching them together, I saw something I hadn't seen in Lisa before. Contentment rather than excitement. Partnership rather than performance. She wasn't trying to impress Marcus or mold herself into what he wanted. She was just being herself, the new self she'd worked hard to become. Today, on the 1-year anniversary of what should have been her wedding day, Lisa had asked if she could take Ethan to the zoo, just the 2 of them. Aunt and nephew time. A year ago, I would have said no immediately, unable to trust her with something so precious, but she'd proven herself consistently over months, showing up when she said she would, being reliable, being present. Yes, I'd said, but I want pictures. Lots of pictures. Now, watching them leave, Lisa holding Ethan's hand as he chattered about wanting to see the elephants, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not that we'd ever get back what we'd lost, but that we might build something new, something better. My phone rang, Tyler's name on the screen. We talked occasionally, two people who'd survived the same storm and checked in on each other's progress. "Hey, stranger," I answered. "Rachel, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I realized what day it is and wanted to check in." "That's thoughtful. I'm doing fine. Actually, better than fine." "Good. That's good." He paused. "I wanted you to know something. I'm engaged." The words surprised me, but not unpleasantly. "Tyler, that's wonderful. Who is she?" "Her name is Catherine. She's a librarian. We met at a book club my mom dragged me to 6 months ago." He laughed. "She's nothing like Lisa. Quiet, honest, completely herself. No games, no pretense. It's refreshing. I'm really happy for you." "Thanks. And Rachel, I wanted to say this properly. That day you canceled the wedding, you saved my life. I mean that literally. I was about to legally tie myself to someone who would have destroyed me financially and emotionally. What you did, as painful as it was for everyone, was the kindest thing anyone's ever done for me, even if that wasn't your intention." After we hung up, I sat with those words. Kindness. I'd never thought of my decision that way. It had felt like survival, like drawing a line in the sand, like finally choosing myself. But maybe it was both. Maybe choosing yourself. Refusing to enable someone else's destructive patterns was its own form of kindness. To them, eventually. But more importantly, to yourself. That evening, Lisa brought Ethan home exhausted and happy, clutching a stuffed elephant and chattering about everything he'd seen. "We had an amazing time," Lisa said, helping him out of his jacket. "He's an incredible kid, Rachel. You're doing an amazing job with him. Thank you for taking him. He had a great time." Lisa lingered at the door. "Can I say something? I know this might be weird, but I need to say it." "Okay. A year ago today was supposed to be my wedding. I spent months being angry at you for ruining it. Then I spent months being angry at myself for giving you a reason to. But now, looking back, I'm grateful. Genuinely grateful. If I'd married Tyler that day, I'd still be the person I was. Entitled, selfish, drowning in debt and lies. Instead, I had to face who I really was and decide if I wanted to stay that way. You gave me that choice, even if you didn't mean to." I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. She'd aged in the past year, in good ways. Laugh lines instead of worry lines. Confidence that came from earning things rather than expecting them. She looked like someone who'd done hard work and come out better for it. "I'm glad you made the choice to change," I said simply. After she left, I put Ethan to bed and stood in his doorway watching him sleep, the stuffed elephant tucked under his arm. This was why I'd done it. Not for revenge, not for vindication, but for him. To model self-respect. To show him that love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. To teach him by example that it's okay to have boundaries even with family, especially with family. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Exhausted, resentful, sacrificing everything for people who took it for granted. She felt like a stranger now. Someone I'd known, but no longer recognized. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who'd learned that the most important person to be loyal to is yourself. That family isn't just blood, it's behavior. That forgiveness is possible, but not mandatory. Earned, not owed. The canceled wedding had cost me $14,000, countless relationships, and a naive belief that family meant unconditional sacrifice. But it had given me something worth infinitely more. It had given me myself back. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "Still on for dinner tomorrow? Want to finally meet that little guy properly?" I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. He's excited to show you his dinosaur collection." Building a life wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic moments. It was about small choices, daily decisions to honor yourself while remaining open to genuine connection. It was about knowing the difference between being generous and being used, between loving your family and losing yourself in their expectations. I'd lost a sister, or at least the version of her I'd thought I knew, but I'd found myself. And in finding myself, I'd created space for Lisa to find herself too. Whether we'd end up close again remained to be seen. But if we did, it would be as equals, as two women who respected each other, not as the caretaker and the taker. 1 year ago, I'd stood in Lisa's kitchen and made a decision that detonated my entire family dynamic. It had been terrifying, painful, and absolutely necessary, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because some prices are worth paying. Some bridges need to burn so you can stop crossing them to reach people who won't meet you halfway. Some weddings need to be canceled so everyone involved can wake up to reality. The hardest lesson I'd learned was this: you can love someone and still choose yourself. You can want the best for your family while refusing to sacrifice your well-being for their comfort. You can set boundaries without being the villain. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their actions. Not from cruelty, but from clarity. Not to punish, but to teach. Not to abandon, but to stop enabling. Lisa had needed to lose everything to understand what truly mattered. Tyler had needed the wedding to implode to avoid a marriage that would have destroyed him. My parents had needed to see the pattern they'd created to start changing it. And I had needed to cancel that wedding to remember my own worth. Looking back now, I didn't regret a single phone call, a single canceled vendor, a single moment of standing firm in my decision. The woman I'd become in the aftermath was someone I actually liked, someone who knew her value, someone who refused to shrink herself to make others comfortable. That was worth more than any family approval, any relationship reconciliation, any amount of avoiding conflict. As I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I passed the mirror in the hallway. The woman looking back at me smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because she'd learned something essential. She'd learned to show up for herself with the same dedication she'd once shown up for everyone else, and that made all the difference. What did you think of this story? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took you for granted? Share your experience in the comments comments below. If you found this story meaningful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. It means everything.